I was involved in a serious crime and people died during that crime.
Yeah. What was
even
it?
though it was a robbery that in which I was a getaway driver. I had a year-old child when I was arrested. And so for me, that was one of my greatest concerns. I always was motivated by anger at injustice and wanting to change that. But I've learned that it was in prison that I experienced the work of building community based in love.
Imagine being incarcerated at a tender age, spending an unimaginable 37 years behind bars for a youthful mistake. Judy's story embodies this reality, but her narrative doesn't end there. It's a story of transformation and hope. Judy, now free, has become a guiding light for others who've gone through similar hardships. Her newfound purpose led her to collaborate with the Clean Start, a transformative Kenyan initiative spearheaded by Teresa Njoroge. Together, they are forging pathways to brighter futures for women re-entering society after incarceration. Judy's dedication to empowering these women to rebuild their lives stands as a testament to her unwavering resilience. Hello and welcome to TRAKTION. My name is Pasil Telewa, and on this episode, we share Judy Clark's journey, her trials, triumph, and unwavering determination to ensure others receive the chance she fought for, a chance at a fresh start after prison.
So after I was charged in court, and I was now asked to pay bail, which I didn't have at that point. And so I was taken to Langata Women Remand Section. So in the course of that week, I hired a lawyer. I managed to get the bail through my family and friends who supported me. And that's how I got out. But when it rains, it really pours, because immediately I got out, I got terminated from work, and my name was so maligned. I was now the bank manager thief, because that's what the news reported, the bank manager thief. So it was a very tough time.
And while all that happened, did you ever come to realize who is it that set you up?
I eventually did add one and one together, and realized that there is no way someone would have just walked into the bank, withdrew all that money over a period of time. It's not like he did one transaction. It's not like I was the only one who was involved in processing that payment. I actually had managers who were above me, who were final authorities, who had authorized.
That means they saw the whole thing happen.
Exactly. Yeah. And the fact that I was singled out to carry the cross on behalf of the bank, when at the end of that long route, it did add up that there were some insiders who knew what was going on, to the point that even during prosecution, we couldn't have the CCTV at the time of my serving the client, which would have been proof to favor me that I paid this client, but it was now their word against me.
Great.
So,
and I think, Teresa, what got me to have this conversation with you, even in as much as you went through a traumatizing period, is the fact that you still rose up.
Yeah.
And, have done many other amazing things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about the initiative that you founded.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm really interested to know how far you're going and how everything is going about.
I tell you, every cloud has a silver lining in it. And I
believe so.
Yeah, our job is to look for that silver lining in that cloud, because tough as the journey was, as you say, I met some amazing ladies.
Yeah.
At first, that's not what I referred to them. Like any other person, I looked at them as criminals.
While you were behind bars?
Well, I was behind bars. I was like, I have not done anything wrong. I have come in here and I did not there's nothing that I have done to warrant me being behind
You didn't
bars.
commit that crime
Yeah.
you're being charged
But
for.
here I
Yeah.
was thinking, I am innocent, you are criminals, so judging them. But as I stayed with them, I saw my unconscious bias, because what made me think that I was the only innocent person who had been sent there, but they were rightfully there. Like, what kind of bias is that? But you see, it's the narratives that we hear.
Yeah.
So you grow up knowing anyone who's there is a criminal. And as I listened to their stories, I was, drawn, so much compassion came over me when I heard their stories. These were women who never had education opportunities, because, as we all know, education here is not equal for all. That's the truth of the matter. It depends, the supply and the quality depends on how much you're able to pay.
To afford.
Exactly. So and that's education. And so most of them never had education opportunities, and post missing those education opportunities, definitely they didn't have high stakes when it came to employment. And if they ever were, they were underemployed. And even if that didn't happen, they didn't have capital to have economic opportunities, decent income generating opportunities. So, and I'd hear their cry. So that's how I was like, okay, I think I can do something.
So when did you establish Clean Start?
So as soon as I got out, I tried a bit to find employment. I didn't, because at that time I was trying to get employment to be able to find some money to then run the initiative, because I didn't have money. But then I never found work. Of course, the tag of being an ex-con was following me just like a shadow.
Yeah.
No one trusts you. Even though I got cleared, post-serving my sentence, I eventually got cleared of any wrongdoing, compensated by the government, and still I couldn't find work. That tag is very heavy. So when I couldn't find work, and I saw how the women were really, really suffering, so I set up Clean Start. And what Clean Start does, we go into the prisons, we train the women. So we've got a 12-week program. It's called the Ufunuo program.
Yeah.
It's 12 weeks. That's the basic level, because it has other levels like advanced, masters. If you want to become a leader, if you want to become a pro bono paralegal, you go through the advanced training. But every woman in prison must take the basic level of Ufunuo. It's 12 weeks. And then upon graduation,
Yeah.
you can now join Clean Start's initiatives
Yeah.
on the outside.
Yeah.
Because we've set up economic hubs like tailoring centers, bakery centers where they can come bake, cook. We have some that are in construction, masons, painters. So if out there you've got a building, these women, we've trained them in construction, carpentry. We've got the green energy space as well, where they make charcoal briquettes and the clean energy cooking stoves. So we've got all these spaces where they can earn an income that we've set up. So you don't need to leave prison and then go into the streets. You leave prison and you come find a place to work, and then you're able to decently fend for your family.
So I'd like to know you personally, because I know that you had this 3-month baby while you're
Yes.
getting behind bars.
Yes.
So tell me about your family, Teresa.
Yeah.
I'd love to know more, but very briefly, please.
My daughter is now, actually she's just turned 13.
Gosh.
Oh my goodness me, she's
Yeah,
already a
my
teenager.
regards to her.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
She's doing incredibly well. Her name is Oma. In my dialect, that means truth.
Yes.
Because I was praying for truth all through when I was expecting her. And then I have a son who's 10. His name is Uhuru. And I named him Uhuru because I was blessed with Uhuru 2 months after I was declared innocent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
So that's me.
I'm so happy to hear that, and many thanks for what you're doing. I really honor that sort of self-initiative.
Yeah.
However, there's a lot of negativity that comes with what you're doing, you know, not to get it wrongly, but not everybody's going to be supporting you. So what sort of challenges have you faced?
A lot, as you have said.
Yes, please.
It takes time. It's a very criminalized space. So people have second thoughts before they associate with you. But I think we've proven ourselves. We've run this organization to a point where it has supported 4,000 women. And it's very clear, these women are not criminals. These women were denied opportunities over and over and over again. And that is why they ended up in the streets. What would you do if it were you in their shoes? So let's be more empathetic. Let's be more compassionate. Let's think about others and the ones especially we leave behind. And let's look at ourselves and ask ourselves, what am I doing to ensure that there's inclusivity, that there's equity, that there's diversity? What am I doing as an individual, as a corporate, as an organization? Just think about it and commit to doing something.
There's something about, you know, a woman, and
Yes.
I've spoken to lots of women on the show, and most of, you know, our perspective is different from the men's. However, there is a bit of a woman not just being a woman.
Yeah.
A woman is a society,
Yeah.
you know. And then when you realize that a woman is a society, you start asking yourself questions. And the same question I'm going to ask you. What happens to these children, you know, when a woman is behind bars, or when the woman of the house, or when a parent gets convicted?
You know, you've touched on a very painful, sore area for us as mothers, as women who have been impacted by the criminal justice system, because 90% of the women who go through the criminal justice system are mothers. But the part that is a pain is the fact that they are the sole breadwinner of their family. So when they go to prison, they normally leave their children all by themselves. No one to fend for them, no one to protect them, no one to be there for them. There are few of these women who come into prison with their children. Like now we've got about between 250 to 300 children who are growing up behind bars. Some were born there, some have come with their mothers, and prison is no place to bring up a child. The language that is used in prison, the environment, these are the first years, foundational years of the mind of the child. So you can imagine the foundation those children grow up in. So it's just a horrible situation when it comes to the children. But this one with mom, even though they are in the worst kind of a situation for you to bring up a child, there are those who have been left. The day mom went into prison, that day, she was arrested in the streets, selling her sweets or selling whatever she was selling without the license and taken in. That night, those children were raped, abused, violated that very night, not tomorrow, that night. No food, no nothing for that child. And their journeys of difficulty begin. They'll soon be kicked out of that house. They'll soon no longer be going to school. Yeah. And there are hundreds of thousands of children with so much trauma because of what was avoidable. Because honestly, if 70% of women in prisons are petty offenders, people who earn between 100 bob, 200 bob, 300 bob a day.
How are they going to even get bail? You know?
And then you arrest this woman and give them a bail or bond of 100,000, 50,000. This woman has never even seen that kind of money in her life. She operates on a monthly income of about maybe 10 to 20,000 shillings a month. Her rent is 3,000. You know, it's day to day. Then you tell her to pay 50,000 and all other manner of kind of ridiculous bills for hawking or loitering. And by the way, loitering with intent, that charge, if you ever go, I bet, go to any court and look at the people who are being charged with loitering. They don't look like you and I. They look a particular way. So why is it you and I can't loiter, but a particular social class are the ones who loiter? You know, the criminal justice system is very biased against the poor, the vulnerable, and the marginalized. Those are the ones who are taken to prison. But anyone with means, no matter how guilty you are, you will find your way around that criminal justice system and you will soon be walking free. So children are the unseen, unheard, forgotten victims of the criminal justice system. And that is why even during our Beyond the Bars Africa conference, we were so glad to have Judith Clark from New York, who works with an organization called Our Children. And you know, we're exchanging ideas of how to continue supporting and have programs for children who have been impacted by the criminal justice system by virtue of their parents. Yeah.
Hey, Judy.
So nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you too. How have you been?
I've been amazed to be in Kenya and to be part of the Clean Start conference here.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've ever been in Kenya. It's actually the first time in many, many years that I've traveled out of the country.
Now, you told me you're about to catch your flight, and
Yes.
I thought I should sneak you into my conversation.
Thank you so much.
Judy, you've served a long time in prison.
I did. I
What
served a
got
long
you to
time.
prison?
I was involved in a serious crime and people died during that crime.
Yeah. What was it?
It was a robbery in which I was a getaway driver.
Yeah.
But people ended up getting killed accidentally, and so I ended up doing a long sentence. And when I was inside, I had to decide that I had to find a way to redeem myself, to understand what was my motivation, the positive parts of my motivation. I was a radical, I was a person in the struggle, but I also had to figure out a way to redeem myself and find new ways.
How long did you stay in prison?
So I stayed for 37 years.
Where were you convicted by which correctional facility?
I was in New York State, so I
Yeah.
went to Bedford Hills Correctional Facility.
Yeah.
And there, I had a year-old child when I was arrested. And so for me, that was one of my greatest concerns. And we were able to work with a nun, Sister Elaine, who brought us together and fought for women to be able to build a children's center inside so that our children could visit us in a comfortable situation. And from that, we built other programs, parenting classes, advocacy, allowing people to find ways to communicate with family that they may have been estranged from. And eventually I was working on, we have a nursery there where mothers who give birth while they're inside can stay with their babies.
Yeah.
And I taught prenatal classes and then became the mentor up on the nursery.
Now speaking about getting into prison for 30-something years, you just came out in 2019.
Yes.
Yeah. And the whole journey, what has it taught you?
I think that for me personally,
Yeah.
I always was motivated by anger at injustice and wanting to change that. But I've learned that it was in prison that I experienced the work of building community based in love. And so I learned that our strength comes from bringing people together with a common cause.
Yeah.
And that's what was so exciting about coming here and seeing 400 formerly incarcerated women.
Women who have gone through
Gone
or are
through what
going
I
through
went
what you
through,
went through, yeah.
hearing their stories,
Yeah.
seeing Teresa and the way that she knows each woman, interacts with them, and is building this dynamic organization and movement, and cultivating leadership. And it really was inspiring me to continue my work outside. I work with women just like that.
Yes, and Judy, just as you caught up with the kids, and having sort of mentoring kids right at the prison, I would love to know when you went to prison. Did you have family?
I had
And what happened to it? Tell me about it.
So my daughter was a year old.
A year old?
Just 1 year old.
Yeah.
And for most of her early life, she lived with my parents. And when they died, I had an extended family that she already had a close relationship with.
Yeah.
And so she was able to move into a continuing situation. But she went through many, many losses over her years.
Yeah.
What was important for us was that she was able to visit me the entire time. And she did. When she was young, it was like once a week. It wasn't once a week when she was older. But it meant that we were able to build a close relationship, that she could hold me accountable and ask me the kinds of hard questions that children need to ask us when we're inside. And I was able to grow into a person that she would say, what I've learned from my mother is that a person in life can make mistakes and grow from that and get stronger and better. And I think that's oftentimes true. That's what we want society to understand, that when we go to prison, it should not be the end.
It shouldn't define us.
It shouldn't define us.
And now that you brought that, I'd like you to quickly tell me about it. And the fact that you're respectfully older, I look at you from a different perspective. And I know the younger generation. And you understand when I say the younger generation, because it's worse in New York. In fact, it's better here. But what is it that you'd like to advise, the younger generation when it comes to just taking responsibility and doing the right thing?
I think that when I was inside, I was with a lot of young people. And what they most needed was hope in themselves and in their future. And so, elders can't just say, you shouldn't do that. They have to say, here's a path. Believe in yourself enough to take the path. When we built a college program inside, women who never thought that they could get education ended up with bachelor's degrees, and they saw themselves in new ways. So I always tried to nurture hope in the women. The same thing with the young women that were on the nursery, many of whom had much shorter sentences than I did. And what I wanted them to know was that their past did not have to define them. And their guilt about their children that they left on the outside did not have to define them, that they could transform that into self-knowledge and motivation to do better. And one of the things that was exciting when I got out and I went to Our Children, which works inside, but then outside it provides housing and services, is that I got to see some of the children that I knew as babies on the nursery who were now young adults. And their mothers were striving and they were striving. And that's what we want for all the women that I saw at the Clean Start conference, that those women have the capacity to grow, to be really important
adults
members
and citizens of the community.
Exactly. And I watch that. I'm the community justice advocate for Clean Start. For Our Children.
Our Children.
And I bring many of the women that get out with me to conferences, to rallies, to classes, and I say, you too can give back. And I think most of us that get out, including the young, when they realize that they can have a purpose in their lives, they're still young, they still want fun in their lives, but they also get really excited at the idea of having a purpose.
Thank you so much, Judy.
Thank you.
I'll let you catch your flight.
It's so sweet. Thank you so much.
That you're not delaying.
Thank you so
also
much.
Eat something. I hope you learned something from Judy Clark's story, and you can see even at her older age, she still has so much inspiration for the younger generation. Many thanks for watching the show today, and make sure you join us again every Saturday and next Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Kenyan time only on KTN News. And if you have a story you'd like to share with us, don't hesitate. Write to us through globetraction@standardmedia.co.ke or DM us on our social media platforms at globetraction. Remember, you can also give me a follow on my social media platforms at Pasil Telewa on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, and TikTok for more or behind the scenes and any other stories. But until then, I hope to catch up with you again same time, same place. Bye-bye for now, and take care.